What's up, everyone? Welcome back. Episode 199, one short of 200, Tyler. But but no, we're here with the owner of Pro Strongman League, Tyler Perdue. Thanks for joining, man.
Yeah, absolutely, man. It's stoked to be on here with you.
Yeah, so I would have had you on for the 200, but we want to have you on obviously because this comes out on Sunday before the last leg of the Super Series for 2024 season. Want to talk about what you got going on October 5th. So that's it's a week away from today. So we've got the 64 starting us off at noon. Then we've got the deadlift championships, and then we've got the 90s at the tail there at 4. So that's gonna be a fun day. Those classes are stacked. Um, yeah, man.
Yeah, no, dude, super excited for it. Kind of like the triple header of
Yeah,
having to end out the season of the Saber Super Series.
yeah.
Um, Super stoked.
Yeah, and man, if you look at all three shows, I mean, you can call the deadlift the show or whatever you want to, all three events you have going on, they're super stacked lineups. Um, People can watch for free on YouTube throughout the day, right? Obviously, I believe Dante will be there streaming it. So you guys can go right to Pro Strongman League YouTube. We'll make sure it's linked on this video. So you can just go ahead, subscribe, and you're ready to watch it. So whenever they do go live, you'll just get that notification. It'll pretty much be a marathon of strongman all day. And, I mean, and I'll let you talk, but when you watch a PSL show, and I've competed in one, it's fast paced. So it's really fun to watch because it's not really that long, lingering day where you're watching a live stream. It's just bang, 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 bang. Here's all our events and let's go. So,
Yeah. One of my things that you kind of already hit on it with presenting like the Saber Super Series all year is like they're fast shows. They're fast to go through. So like they're easy to watch. In a lot of people's opinion, they're really fun to compete in because you're not there all day, all night. You can actually make like a day out. You can do stuff before, after, whatever. Like I said, we kick off at noon, so no one's got to wake up at the ass crack of dawn to get ready. Um, we'll still end at a reasonable time, but the super excited to be back at the venue that we're at. It's the Elmwood Park Amphitheater, which is it's awesome, man, dude. The athletes, the setup on stage is really awesome. We have an entire Strong Fest, like an entire festival that goes along with it that's centered around strength. So a lot of the local community, there's like vendors from all over kind of coming in. I think the last we checked like 32. Um,
yeah.
some food trucks get to have food. I think there's two or three different food trucks. Either way, and
Yeah.
like it's used to putting on like it's a venue that's used to putting on like shows and concerts. So the cool thing we're doing at this one is the athletes will actually have a warm up area, and then they'll also have an area that they can go into that's more like a locker room with like couches and stuff like that too. So they can be like out of the elements, completely away from everything altogether if they want. And it'll only be for like staff and athletes. So there won't be a way for it to be super crowded or anything like that.
Well, that's nice. That makes a big difference. This is where it was last year for the 90s, correct?
Yeah, we had it. It was our first year there at the 90s.
Yeah.
With the 90s, learned a lot, made some mistakes, learned some cool things that are really good about it. The whole 9 yards. But weather should be beautiful. Working with the event, like the venue itself, is pretty seamless, to be honest with you, which allows us just to go in and do right. We don't have to worry about all sorts of rules and regulations and stuff like that. And then the festival, it's grown from last year to this year, so there'll be a lot of things for people to go do and see as well. And guess we'll let the cat out of the bag for you on this one. We're actually doing athlete badges this show. It's the first ones we're doing, but they'll actually get like it's gonna be an athlete badge, and you're actually going to get things from some of the vendors for being an athlete.
That's cool. That's a really unique idea. Like go up and like present or whatever your athlete badge and like, booth 4, you can get whatever.
Yep. Like I say, you go up to one of the booths and I'm, athlete, whatever my name is. Like there's one guy that he does like these really good cookies, and you're gonna get a free cookie as an athlete, as one of many things. So
That's cool.
um
That's a cool way to parlay the event that's going on like at the same time as your event and like, kind of work together. I've always thought that's really cool with something that strongman when you're somewhere where other people can watch. Like live in Baltimore, for example, like there's the restaurants and stuff around. So, like random person walking by. Like it happened when we were in Baltimore. People
Yeah,
came by, it's in a public venue, like, what the hell is this? And you see people talking and explaining, as hard as strongman is to explain, explaining strongman, you know what I mean? Um, I think it's cool, like the more crowd and stuff you can have for a pro show, especially, right?
definitely. And it's like, as a sport, like, especially the weight classes, like we're not at a place where you're gonna have 2,000 people come to watch strongman.
No.
As much as we'd like to have that be the case, right now it's not. And so our goal is always to put it where people already are going, like the beach, the boardwalk on
Right.
the beach, sucks it rained. Like at Live, where you said there's everything in the middle of a festival. That way we can kind of pull from other places. And I always judge our attendance on like how many athletes do we have, how many, attendees do we have, right? Because it's one thing if you've got 100 athletes and 100 people there watching, you got one person per athlete, right? But if you have 20 athletes and 200 people, now you got, four, like you got however many that is
Yeah, right. No, I
per
agree.
athlete. So in like our shows, like the crowds aren't massive, but they do keep growing in that respect because we always
Right.
have people tallying how many people are coming through.
Right.
And so the best way for us to increase that to me is to put things where they like where stuff already is.
For sure. Makes sense. And you said last year, like you made some mistakes or whatever, learned some lessons at the venue. And that is one thing is like mistakes happen, but when it comes to strongman in general is a newer thing, right? But what you're doing is super new. So it's like the one weight class, one type of specific show at a time. I'm sure you're going to learn stuff for a long time, right? Like
Absolutely.
that's I wouldn't hang my head on that too much because that's like an even newer part of strongman, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
So,
for sure, man. Like, and I'll be damned if I go through one of these weekends and don't learn something.
right.
Right.
Well, that's
I
great to
feel
hear. I'm
that way.
sure
Right?
athletes appreciate you saying that.
Yeah. I will always be the hardest on myself that anyone could possibly be. You could probably ask some people close to me. I tend to just blame myself for everything, and then I work on how to fix it.
Yeah.
Um, and that's fine by me. And we've made like appropriate improvements over certain things, and I don't expect to make the same mistake twice.
Yeah. So with when it comes to PSL, are you pretty much like the one making events and stuff like that? Are you always kind of picking them or do you have a team? I mean, I know you have a team. I've seen them work and stuff like that, but are you coming up with the events for shows typically?
So it is a team.
Yeah.
Um, it's a team as far as like you've seen like the team. You'll see Bobby and Bo. I don't want to start naming people. I will
Yeah,
forget
right.
something.
Because you always forget one person. You're like, shit.
Yeah, just overall team is amazing. Some of them have input on some events and some ideas. We have some disagreements, and then we also have a team of people that test them. No, I will not talk about who it is. So far, nobody has figured it out. They are people in the sport, and I'm going to keep it that way. They don't compete in PSL or they don't compete in the Super Series, um, and they don't. No, nothing has gotten out. That's something that I've been super proud of. Is like you can look around the sport, and there's a lot of bullshit. Like someone might have known something before it was released or whatever. Like
Sure.
I don't pay much attention to it. I just know that out of all the things and all the bullshit I've seen all over the years of the sport, there are certain things I refuse. And that one of those is every competitor knows the events at the same time, except if you like qualify or like you fill in a place later. But all the events are released at the exact same time to everybody, regardless of if you've judged for us, if you've commentated, if you've helped, if you've competed before. Like, sorry, Josh, being on your podcast, but you don't get to know the. um,
That's beautiful though, man. Seriously, that's the right way to do it. And like that's awesome to hear. And I'm sure again, athletes appreciate to hear that.
yeah, hope so, man. Like I said, it's one of the big things that we like try to make sure. So far, it's been smooth as can be, and we
Yeah,
expect for it to stay that way. No matter how much I might like somebody or whatever, it's just not going to
right.
happen.
It's
People
always
in close.
this it's always like discouraging when you're like, we all gossip and talk in strongman and someone's like, "Oh, did you hear this show is gonna have a max axle?" And you go and look and it's not even posted and you're like, shit, well, that sucks, but whatever.
And it's a dude, no, like, yeah, been around the sport a long time. I said
Yeah.
you. I was thinking the other day how long I've been around the sport. I'm like way too long. Like one of that like old dude, but yeah, dude, I've seen it happen everywhere, and it's like maybe you guessed right. Maybe you figured something was going to happen, but like some things just they're not. There's no other way to explain it, and it's unfortunate.
Yeah. No, for sure. But that's cool. And like one thing that I think he did cool this year in the Cerberus Super Series, and obviously shout out Ken probably got annoyed with me how many times I thanked him when we were in Baltimore because like it sounds redundant, but like Cerberus definitely stepped up obviously to help Pro Strongman League like for the Super Series. I'm sure I don't know any of the back end stuff, but like being a big company like that to support and help you and grow this series and the annual events like obviously shout out to them. But um having Bobby Thompson there, like, yeah, he's obviously like a pro strongman, like big name, but how much attention Bobby paid to the athletes and like, you know what I mean? Because sometimes you may just get like that pro strongman or that whatever who's just there to say down, whatever. Like the amount of detail that Bobby had was incredible. And I mean, you see it, but that was one thing that I was blown away by.
Yeah, no, 110%. I want to roll back really quick to the Cerberus thing. I love Cerberus is amazing. They do, in my opinion, the most for the sport at what we're doing of any company out there. And getting to
100%.
work with not just, I mean, Ken's amazing, but getting to work with their HQ guys over there, Cal and Pete as well. And so it's just like Cerberus as a whole is in for like, and I get to see some of the Cerberus accounts posting our stuff like Cerberus Australian stuff. And I'm like, dude,
Yeah.
that's so because it's like really having a brand. Like having said, like I said, Ken is coming to the shows. Obviously, getting Cal from Romania, Pete from Scotland, it comes not as it's easy, but he brings Sarah down. She, their photographer. She takes sweet videos and all that to add to what we're doing too, and it's like it's growing really fast in that regard. And I think it's only getting better. We have some really cool conversations about what's coming in the future, like, what the Super Series is going to turn into, what it's going to look like, all that. And then to roll back to Bobby, frankly, dude, I could give a fuck what someone's actual reputation is if they don't care. That's just something you'll find across everyone in the team here is everybody cares. And I try not to be biased, but I have yet to see someone judge better than Bobby at the events he judges, care more, and take ownership of when he screws up. He's one, especially with his name. He can have the name, but he will take ownership of a mistake that he makes to anybody. And that's the thing I think, like you said, if you haven't had that experience with him before, it's hard to see. But once you do, you're like, holy shit. And
Yeah.
that's kind of the standard we really want to set. Not like this bullshit inconsistent judging and this person that, and you don't know what you're getting, or it's not clear what you're supposed to do, right? Because the last thing I hate is for someone, no matter what language they speak, because we have people from all over the world come off and be like, crap, I didn't know I was supposed to do that, or I didn't know it went like that, right? You've been a part of it. You get the PDF with the rules. We go over it in the rules meeting, and then Bobby will tell you when or whoever our judges are, they'll tell you
Yeah.
when you're there exactly what to do. And the other piece is like when someone's, we've all seen someone like struggle to get a lift, right? Or like a deadlift isn't fully locked out and the judge is just standing there looking at them. It's not helpful. We're really big on like telling you what to do, right? Like either you looking to see your chest up, like put your head forward on a press or whatever. And that's like Bobby brought all of that to this. I give him all of the credit for like the up level judging and like that really great standard that's 100% him. And I'm just trying to learn from it and like support it the best that I can because it's amazing.
Yeah. Well, like his experience is obviously huge, but like the level of like professionalism that he brought, at least when I've seen him, is incredible. For example, like I have a real life example is when I was in Baltimore. I'm not a good presser, so I had to press back to back. So Bobby came up to me and he's like, I'm just gonna come up here and give you a second. Like, I don't want you to have to, like press, with a minute rest, because you're pressing for max. And, yeah, we're trying to go as fast as we can. Tyler's trying to get me through, but like him just being a professional strongman, one of the top in the world. But recognizing that is incredible to me. You know, it's like that little things I think that make a difference to the athlete, right?
100%. You know, and that's like you say, you get to experience it, right? And the other
Yeah.
thing he's really good at is like telling me that's what's going on. So then I can be like, cool, that's something that we need to like make a standard across the board. So someone like Josh isn't stuck pressing, you know,
Of
with a
course.
minute in between or whatever. I think it's really cool. It's really cool to recognize that. And not for nothing, man. The other judges we've had are just, in my opinion, like top notch. Like they care. They kind of take after like what we're saying about Bobby. They have the same thing. They might just not have as big of like a name. But you know, Nancy, Greg, Andrew judged. Like
Yep.
just, I wouldn't trade them for anybody.
Yeah. No, they're all good people. And
Definitely.
like, you know, yeah, you can have all the accomplishments in the world, but if you're a good person, you care, mix with that, with those four people you just named, they're going to be a really good judge, right? So
Absolutely.
that's cool. Um, well, that's awesome, man. I glazed past it, but when I was asking if you made the events, I was thinking about because like you, for example, like there was the new sandbag toss this year. Like, was that you that thought that up?
That one specifically was me.
Yeah.
Um, I'm not. It's not just me. Like I said, there winds up being a proverbial whiteboard of like 30, 40 different kind of styles of events and stuff that we wind up
Mhm.
whittling down to the ones that get chosen. If the events ever looked like they've been tested and rehearsed before, because they have been. But I love sandbag throws. And I always got annoyed because my sandbag throw arc is kind of like this versus like this. So I would always hate it when I would. There's a specific contest that I actually lost several places by because my bag hit like it hit last, right? So they timed it when the bag hit the ground.
Oh yeah.
I just hucked them and I threw them way too far and I lost points. I'm like, but I threw them further for crying out loud.
Yeah.
Like, how can we put a new spin on, you know, the event that's, you know, it's pretty well accepted on like the
Yeah.
old style event, right? Because the one other thing I hate, man, is just like the same shit all the time, right? And like there's a sweet spot, right? I think you can't repeat everything and you can't get too far away because then it's not
Right.
strong meat. But it's like, how can we test different disciplines, different energy systems, different um just different skill sets and the order of the events and how they go.
Yeah.
I'm not the sole brainchild behind the events. I guess the team would tell you that I am the like end of the line if I say
Yeah.
we're really
You're
not
the
doing that.
judge.
Matter.
Yeah.
'Cause at the end of the day, whatever. Like I'm gonna get all the shit.
Yeah.
Like, and I'm fine with that. I wouldn't trade that to give them shit. But I'm like, if I see something inherently that I don't like or whatever, I'm like, this doesn't fit,
Right.
right? I'm like, we're not doing it no matter how much it makes sense. We need to find something that makes actual sense in the scheme of the contest, but the overall scope of I'll just I'll use chaos because I talk to Luke a lot, but it's like cool if your contest is going to be like this, right? It's going to be this crazy heavy soul taking event. Well, I'm not going to make a crazy heavy event that's going to take your soul 3 months later, right? That's how
Yeah.
you get, and just kind of knowing like the flow of the season. So it has to fit within that too. The bigger picture.
That's really cool you mentioned that because Luke mentioned that last week. And I discussed with him about how awesome I think that is that you guys are cognizant of that, the athletes, right? Like, hey man, I got like six guys that are going to be doing this show at the Chaos Classic, and it's like the heaviest 90 kg show ever. And then, but I want them to come to my show in 3 months or whatever, and I want them to be able to train for it. So like, just being real and making the show appropriate, I think that's like awesome.
Yeah,
Like,
no, 100%.
you got to be real, right? So I mean,
And like, there's no reason the show can't be hard, just in different aspects,
right,
right? Classic is over 2 days. This event's going to be done in 3 hours.
right,
Also, to factor that in,
yeah.
um, you know, just the pacing of it. And as we go, we get better at keeping that pace exactly where it needs to be.
Yeah. Oh, I'm sure you. Yeah, I'm sure you like we said earlier. You learn stuff every time. I will say, from the athlete, you know, people say, "Oh, 3 hours, like that's got to be brutal. That's crazy." I thought it was perfect. Like I thought it was awesome. I never once felt like you were like coming over and like dragging us like to the next event. Like sure, like when it's a weight class show, like yeah, uh you have less people to worry about. You know, like a full show, you got the novices, then the masters, and then this class. So you're kind of like guessing when am I going to go next. This one, you finished a event, and then you just start getting ready for the next event, and it was like, man, I'm done in 3 hours. That was awesome. I never even had time to like feel sore or
Yeah.
like like my back locked up. And it's like, well, I'll just like I can keep going now before it keeps getting so bad. Like just it it's just a great. I thought the 3 hour kind of concept flows great. So
Yeah. It's
I,
finally settled into like a sweet spot because we have definitely made the mistake of going a little too fast
mhm.
during certain aspects and having to actually slow it back down. And then, for whatever reason, we've had a little bit slower, like 3 hours, 6 events, it's an event every 30 minutes.
Yeah,
Um, if we think about like that's especially for weight class guys, like none of you are 400 pounds. Like you shouldn't, in my opinion, need hours between, right?
yeah,
You should,
right.
as an athlete, be able to stay in somewhat a good enough shape to go.
I also
Um,
don't know why. Now, like I said, some shows you just can't avoid it. If it's a 120 person local show with 16 weight classes, you're going to be there a while, right? But I don't know as an athlete myself, why would you want to be there? Like what why would you want an hour and a half between events? Like what are you going to do?
Yeah, for sure.
Like,
And like I said, the bigger shows, like that's their thing, and that I don't want to do that.
right.
Um, right. Like there's nothing wrong with it per se, but yeah, like I ran into that. I'm like, I went to a show. I literally left, went across the street to a pizza parlor at that place, ate, came back, and still had to wait about an hour. And I was like, well, that's cool, but I want to when I travel, I want to do things.
Yeah, I
Right.
want
I
to
start at 9 and I'm not done until 6:30 and I'm tired. I've been there all day. By the time you get home, shower and all that, it's like 8 o'clock. And I'm like, well, I can go eat dinner, but I
yeah.
can't. The stuff that I love is when people like come to Baltimore, they go to the Orioles games, like people that came out to LA, they they went to Disney World, right?
Yeah,
Like it's just like you're able to do that stuff,
right.
the whole trip out of it, because let's be honest, we're not making full-time livings here doing it. So it's like if you're gonna take a trip, I want you to be able to have the most out of the trip as well, rather than just the show and then go shower, eat, sleep, and leave.
For sure, for sure. That was like yeah, that's what we like to do too. I think almost every family likes to do that. So that's cool. That's cool to hear that. Um now I know we still have the last leg of the Super Series. What can you talk about 2025 at all? I mean, I don't know. Yeah, I mean, I don't know about dates, but let's do this first. Well, now we still got one leg left, like I said, but how do you feel that this year went for you in PSL like 2024? When you look back at it, how do you feel so far?
Yeah, it's a great question to ask me, who is always a self-critic. Um, I think as a whole, this year has gone well. It would be there's always people that are going to talk and cause their drama about stuff that's not even real, and cause those issues, right? Like all that bullshit. But as a whole, I think it's gone well. You know, the shows have gone. People seem to have a really good time at them, right? That's the overall is a good time. I liked the area. Again, it rained at the beach and people still had a good time. So
Yeah,
that tells me something, right? Um, how the shows are going as far as the events and the placings, the point spreads. I think I would get, it's solid. It's not the best, but it's pretty solid. Um, you know, and I think there's a lot of improvements on what we did last year, and then the Super Series this year has brought. And when I say improvements, I mean not only like some of the equipment is custom made for the series, and you don't find it anywhere else. Some people love it, some people hate it, but it's not just the same boring crap, right? Or you know what you're gonna get. Um, the judging is one that I'm really happy about. Like the standard of judging, I think should be the standard in the sport, period. That we should all be able to expect no matter where we go. Is just a judge that cares, a judge that is thorough, a promotion that tells you what to do, and there's no questions. And then the other thing is like our production. I love Dante. Dude cares more than just about anybody. Will work his ass off from whenever you tell him to. Whenever he decides, dude, it's wild. He's willing to do anything. He's just gotten better and better at the streams. Jen and CJ on commentary. It's another pair. I wouldn't trade them for anybody. I'm not knocking anybody else, but I would not trade those two for literally anybody. So like the commentary game has definitely up leveled. And then one thing I'm also excited about is the actual on-screen graphics and the presentation that way. It got better and it's about to go like a 10x better for the show coming up next weekend. And I can't wait to finalize it. We're talking to Dante tomorrow night, actually, like go over it and have a meeting and what it looks like. I can't wait to actually get it out there and show people what's up.
Yeah, that's man, I think the live stream is such an appreciated thing because, for me, like when I came to PSL this year, I had a 3-month-old kid. And being able to have my in-laws and my parents like have it up there, you can see my name, so they're not guessing like, oh, from like a super far camera angle on a crappy live stream, like, is that Josh? Like, no, like you can, because just the reality is not everyone can make it out to watch it. So especially, think about the overseas guys and girls, you
100%.
know, being able to provide that on YouTube, and I don't know if that'll be your model forever, but that is such a cool thing is like having that free live stream. I
Dude,
think it's cool.
I love that it's just one less barrier to entry too, because to anyone in the sport to watch, like any cost is a barrier to entry. And just the ability for us to actually, there's no secret this stuff all costs money. But the ability to do this and keep it free, like I tell people to give a huge thanks to companies, Cerberus, give company anyone you see that's a partner of any of these shows, that's part of why all of this stuff doesn't cost athletes anything and none of the cost of the production or the contest is being passed down is because of those companies.
Yeah. And I talked about it last week, but if you didn't listen to my episode with Luke, I don't even know if you publicize it that much, but it's a pro strongman show. If you're competing, you don't pay. So like you do not pay, like you don't for the pro shows, you do not pay Tyler like a $250 entry fee, whatever. You come and compete. Sure, you pay like to be there, like to eat food, but that's you whatever. But I just thought that was such a cool thing that PSL does.
Yeah, it's one thing people close to me have been telling me for a while is, hey, Tyler, you are absolute dog shit at talking about what you're doing. Like, I've never been the person to talk. I do like my work will kind of speak for itself. But talking to some of my friends have been like, hey, that's not gonna fly as like as a promoter. You're gonna have to do it. And I'm just like, dude, I don't want to seem like I'm bragging. Like,
Yeah,
right? Because I'm doing it for that. I've actually talked to Luke about this. Like,
yeah,
suck at it and trying to get better at it because it's like the amount of people that don't know, and the only person I blame is myself. I
yeah,
don't blame anybody else, right? It's no one else's fault that they don't know because if you don't know what I'm doing, that's my fault, right? Like, yeah, you shouldn't have to pay an entry fee, right? Like, you should, I don't, all the pictures are free. Like, actually, just anything that I said the live stream is free. I'm not knocking people that do it differently, by the way.
no,
This
no,
is I want to do it in the way I think it should be done. There's a time and a place for the other as well. Um, yeah, just like is little cost on the athletes, and I'm really big on the athlete like return. So like, if it's a 1 day show, right? So it's inherently you have the option to stay less time, which is less hotel, which is less time off work, which is less food, which is less everything. So trying to make the cost on the athlete as little as possible while giving as much as possible on the other end in a fiscally smart way.
yeah, right. It's like I don't want to demean it by saying this, but like the shoebox thing that we got, like the gift. How can I say it in a more eloquent way that it's not a shoebox? The gift box that we got for athletes at rules meeting for
Yeah,
the that's so cool.
the shoebox.
Like I think of it as a shoebox. I'm literally looking at it right over here. It's on my little
Oh
strongman
yeah.
Hall of Fame thing. Yeah. But it's I just thought it was so cool. It's like I like remembering stuff from strongman, and like that's even if you don't win, is something that all the athletes can take home. And it had packets of Element in there from sponsors, things from Cerberus. You open it, it literally says Cerberus Super Series Championship. Like it's really cool. So
Yeah, I'm pleased with how those turned out, and that's like a I've been around the sport along, seen a lot of things. I've seen a lot of really cool things, and we have on our team we have a lot of people that have been to every level of the sport, right? So I've been fortunate enough to sit into some of the rules meetings, some of the athlete meetings, see the gift bags that like some of the highest level people in the sport get. And it's like, okay, well, while I can't give you a Yeti cooler and a Theragun to everybody, like it's like, all right, what can we do? How can we kind of bridge this gap? And I've always seen people love to get boxes, right? It just feels cool. So it's like, cool, let's spend some time, let's put together a box, design it to where, like you said, when you look at it, you're like, okay, that's cool.
yeah,
Um, and it's just like those little things that we're trying to put together over and over and over again that like
yeah,
start to replicate. And you can't know what those experiences are because people have to reference the top level of the sport, right? That's where everyone's trying to go. You can't replicate it without knowing what happens, without actually like seeing it on Instagram or whatever is one thing, but being there and watching it unfold and how it happens is an entirely different experience. It's like, cool, this is how we can do that and start to give that higher level treatment across the board.
yeah, yeah. It definitely felt that way. So that's cool. Um, so you talked about the live streams and like even further enhancing the graphics and stuff like that. What else comes to mind when you're like things in the near future, next year, whatever, that you want to, some boxes you want to check? Like, hey, I want to start doing this. I want to do this. Is there anything that comes to mind in addition to that stuff?
Yeah, I mean, the like I said, the biggest thing is probably well, not the big one of the biggest things is gonna be, okay, cool. Like, in 2023, we gave away X amount of prize money. All right, well,
Hmm.
2024, we're gonna eclipse that by a lot.
Hmm.
Um, via like, giving out event win bonuses. You come to a show,
That's that's what.
podium gets oh yeah, see, I'm not good at talking about it, but like podium gets money like everywhere.
Yep.
And then you have the ability as a competitor, no matter what place you finish, to win money because if you win an event, you get $150. Doesn't matter where you finish in the show. I don't care. And if you're somebody like Nancy that wins and wins 5 of the 6 events, well, you get an extra $750
Right.
in your
It's a good
prize
way
money.
to stack some. Like, I mean, think about Quinn Ramasco in the 80s. He won
Yeah,
four
Quinn.
out of six events.
Yep, and dude, so I'm just gonna throw a shout out to Quinn. Dude, Quinn won the show, and Quinn helped us clean up
Yep.
the entire thing. Quinn was still there when I was backing the truck out of the venue when everything was packed away.
Yeah, I watched it. I watched him helping clean up like when I was there.
And for the
He
record, we were like, dude, Quinn, go eat, go relax. That's just who he is.
yeah, he's a good dude.
He really is. Like I said, I'll never forget that. And I'll be like, the dude that won the show stayed and helped clean up with everybody else who'd been working all day
Yep.
until the truck was packed. He didn't just pick up one thing until the truck was packed.
Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah, big kudos to him. But yeah, like giving away, like increasing the prize money,
Yeah.
basically the athlete return. That's a big one. I feel pretty confident about that. I'm not going to put numbers out there because then I'll get held to them.
Sure, sure.
Um, but I have a good feeling about that. The second one is the crowds at the show, right? I feel like once people see the what happens on the screen next weekend, we're going to take a big step forward in that. And there's a lot of people to thank for the advancements that have been able to be made in that, right? Like Dante, of course, is just a workhorse. Don at ADL has been nothing but just amazing whenever I have a question or to really tell me something sucks and don't you dare put that on a screen,
Hmm.
right? You
Yeah.
need the 100%. And he means it sucks. Don't put it on the screen when he says that, by the way.
Right.
Um, but the crowds, like I said, I typically look at crowds of like how many people per athlete. If you have 400 athletes and you've got 300 people in a crowd, okay, cool. You got 300 people in a crowd. But you got 400 people to draw 300 people there, right? Um, so the crowd just drawing the crowds up, right? The beach not raining should help. That's like I said, just putting them where people are, getting a bigger crowd in person, and then I think the third thing right now, and again, I'm so on like October 5th brain
Yeah,
that
sure. I get that.
Tyler
I get
problems
that.
is what I like to say. But I would say the third thing is going to be the literal overall athlete experience. Because right now I feel like we do a pretty good job. But there are just an umpteenth amount of things that I want to do better and more. And so spending the off season figuring that out and also getting the right amount of people in to help. Because at the end of the day, one person is only one person. They can't do more than that. And so actually enhancing the athlete experience more to make things, and like I said, I have several ideas I'm gonna keep here for you guys to actually feel even better about it.
That's cool. That's well, you say you're not great at bragging about yourself. So how much money when it's all said and done will athletes have gotten in 2024 after the Super Series, roughly?
Let's math it real quick. I couldn't begin to tell you.
Because I
Um,
think it's cool to say it out loud.
yeah, I mean it's 5K per show,
Yep,
six
six
shows,
shows.
but then there's 150.
There's 36 events over those six shows.
Actually more
Oh
because
no,
of
there's 42 because the 105s had 10, right?
yeah, the 105s had 10, so it's 40 events, right?
Yeah.
Um, so it's another 6 grand. And then we have had some sponsors like step up and help with a few things. Someone's like travel from very far away,
Hmm.
for example, but we'll say 36 grand as a
Over
straight
six shows.
yeah.
That's
Um
over six shows.
yeah, which I think, we've taken literally zero entry fees. We've not charged anybody for a single anything, right? You would know.
Right.
So your spend on the show was your travel and your accommodations. So none of that has been passed down or anything like that. And again, I'm not knocking anyone who does it. It's just not what we want to do.
Yeah, yeah. That's I just think that's so cool. And it's like I think it's kind of a bummer. And I think it'll come around. I think there'll be more and more interest just as it continues to grow and whatever. But like how is there not more people that are like dying to get there? Because it's fast show, can win money, no entry fee, only competing with guys in my class.
Yep.
So I'm like, man, I just urge people in 2025, and I'm going to be vocal about it, is to get involved and try to qualify and compete. Because I think that's one way to just help you without, you don't even have to really do anything other than just be an athlete, right? Is just try to show up and compete because it helps grow grow everything around your organization.
100%, and we're always asking ourselves, like, okay, I hear things, right? People that say things, they're like, oh no, no one's ever going to say anything. It's like, yeah, I probably heard it. But like, it's kind of like, okay, what can we do? You can ask them. I've asked people, what can I do to get more people? What am I doing wrong?
Mhm.
Right. To not get more people. And I'll just flat out say, like, you know, it's harder to justify a contest when people don't show up. It's like, hey, here, oh, I say it all the time. Here's the opportunity. I'm not going to make you come. I can't make you come. But it's like, this is an objectively good opportunity. If you have another show or you have a job or some life things you can't help, okay, I get it. But then there's, like unfortunate injury happens, training for it. I get that why you're not there. But then there's a lot of bullshit, stupid reasons that it's just like either it's just you should have never said you're coming, or you knew about that months ago. You could have told me months ago, but you waited until the last second to say it.
Yeah.
Um, and those are the things that are just ungodly frustrating because it takes, we actually spend money for everyone that comes to the show, like to make boxes and stuff. It's not
Sure,
huge.
sure.
It's like that, but it's also like someone else could have stepped in that spot. I hear people all the time, we want opportunities, right? Oh, cool. You kind of need to show up to them.
Well, that's my point is, man, it's like it's hard to bitch about not having stuff for weight class athletes when only 13 people come to a PSL show. Now,
Well,
you have to qualify. You
yeah.
have to
I mean,
qualify, but it's like, come on, man. Like,
anywhere between 10 and 15, I'm not going to complain about.
yeah,
I don't want them to be huge.
sure. What's your ideal for 105 is a little bigger, right? Like
Uh,
that's
yeah,
20.
16,
So,
16
okay.
or 16 or 17 this year.
So are
Um,
you're trying to be around that 15
15,
ideally?
15 is cool. Yeah. Like I said, 10 is fine. I don't have a problem with 10. Like somewhere between 10 and 15, probably. This year I opened it up to the possibility of doing more, but kind of glad I didn't.
Yeah,
Kind of glad it wasn't 20 people that showed up. I think because 20 people showing up would inherently mess with the pace of it. Unless I opened up like 4 lanes or something, and I also don't want to do that. That's also
it's
fine,
just
but that's
so
not what I
many
want.
more resources too. I mean,
It's resources, but also like when 4 people are competing at the same time, it's a lot harder for you to get, you to get your attention, right? For us on the production side of things to do things like when 1 or 2 people are coming up, there's other things we can do for you guys that is very hard to do 4 in a row.
yeah, makes sense.
Yeah, between 10 and 15, I think is a really good sweet spot to be able to also treat everybody the way that you're referencing and other people have too. Um, so somewhere in that range. Once it gets below 10, it's kind of like, okay, what can we do to get 8 to 10? Um, what is it? And things we can do, but then, I'll say it again, like if you want opportunities, we can provide them. You just have to, show up. And then I'm going to say this, and like I won't be everyone's best friend for it, but it's like a lot of drama. Like one thing that I've always done with this is like I hate all that drama and bullshit. All of that crap, like talking and this and that, and he said, she said, like that shit doesn't help across the board.
For sure.
I won't have any part of it. It comes to me, I won't have any part of it. But that also hurts things, right? Because if you hear that that organization is bad, even though it's untrue, you're gonna be like, oh no, I don't know if I even want to pay attention, right? And then it just hurts the entire sport. So yeah, showing up and probably, like less bullshit drama that just is encircling of the sport as a whole for the
Yeah,
most
man,
part.
it sucks. It sucks. It's one of my least favorite things about strongman is that side of it. It probably is my least favorite thing.
I can't
Um,
between the drama and the politics, which one's worse? And I just say like as far as it comes to us, that neither of those two things will be tolerated because it's such bullshit. And we don't play those games. Period. Plain and simple. Won't find it. Kick it out the door as soon as it starts to come in. Whatever. The day that I start doing that and falling into that, I'm walking away because the sport needs literally no more of that shit.
yeah. Um, for 2025, now I you can just hit the red button on your desk and tell me to stop whenever I'm going too far and you can't, because of I understand there's things you just can't talk about yet. And we are focused on the October 5th, right? But um do you foresee it being like regional there being like in-person regionals again next year for 2025, or do you foresee like online qualifiers only, like set routes based on other events that are already pre-existing, making it easier on you? How do you can you talk about that?
I can talk about some of it, yeah.
Okay.
There's definitely going to be some like we'll call them pre-existing events that you can qualify through. I brought up Luke earlier.
Yeah.
That pathway they're creating. That's going to be one for the overseas people. There's a couple other ones. We tend to throw some invites out from USS Nationals, just working with them. I'm torn between doing a show or two, like an in-person qualifier. They're cool, but at the same time, like they're costly on us. But also like as an athlete, you do have to cut weight, travel, compete again in a year. Um, as far as online qualifiers go, there's probably going to be one. As much as I like to live in the world of maybe not,
Hmm.
maybe it's just strictly invites. I don't think that's going to be the way to do it. Right? I want everyone that's at the show I can point to and say this is how they got here.
Yeah.
Right? So that way it's objective. You just eliminate like any of that crap of like, well, that person didn't earn an invite. That person
Yeah.
doesn't deserve to be there. So actually, they did this. They took advantage of this opportunity and did it. So that's how they got here.
Yeah. No, yeah, it's hard because it's like the regionals, I get it, and it's in your own organization, but like you said, it's just another expense for the athletes, and not an expense cutting weight,
Yeah.
things like it's. I'm glad you said that because it's the real answer. It's not we can
Yeah.
live in la la land, but it's the real world.
Yeah. And I did like the EFI Limit Breaker show with Chris. Um, we're gonna invite people from that show. He's been talking about it. Dude just cares, man.
Yeah,
Does a good job. So we're gonna invite some people from his show. If you're not doing it or haven't or whatever, like that's a guaranteed way to get an invite next year to the weight classes he's got. But yeah, I mean, it's again, if it's truly about the athletes, right? I'm gonna do everything that I can on our team is to make sure that you guys don't have to do unnecessary crap. Don't have to spend unnecessary money. Don't have to, yeah, like you said, cut weight again, right? Because how many times we cutting weight in a year now? Like, some of my background is in that. So it's like, great. Now I'm asking you to do something I know for the fifth time this year is just bad for you, right?
Right.
Now I'm asking you to compete again. Uh,
Right.
it's just all of it. So it's kind of like, and again, if regionals are fine, there's nothing wrong with it. Like that's a thing people can do. I don't think that I maybe a qualifier next year, maybe.
Okay.
Um, but I'm definitely not set on it at the current moment.
Yeah. No, I get it. I was just curious. So I know people ask and they want to know the schedules and as far out in advance as possible, and I get
Uh,
it.
and I get the planning part of it for
Yeah.
sure. The order of the shows that we had this year for like the Super Series, that's probably going to kind of stay the same, right? The weight class pairings and the time of year, because those were very intentional. They were set around shows that we kind of viewed as like what else is someone going to do, and not to, because if you have two contests at the same time, you're not adding an opportunity. You're actually taking, like, you're just it
Splitting
goes
it in half.
it all it does is dilute something like a class, and then you're not actually providing an opportunity if you're forcing someone to turn another one down. There's entirely too much of that anyways. So the timeline is probably late May again for you guys in July, and then the 90s and 64s somewhere in this fall time. I instinctively try to split chaos and OSG,
Yeah.
right? Because chaos is kind of submitting themselves right there in the middle of the year. OSG, while we don't know the exact date all the time, like in January, we just can kind of figure it's going to be at the end of the year,
Right.
right? And that's fine. End cap of the year, OSG is great, whatever. So it's like we can put the 90s and the 64s right there in the middle, and it worked out pretty well last year. I assume it's going to work out again this year. Um, so that schedule, that can be a plan. And my goal, and then some of our goals, like talking with Luke, is there can be a circuit, right? The open guys have a circuit. They have 4 shows every year. They have the Arnold Classic, they have World's Strongest Man, they have Strongest Man on Earth, and then they have the Rogue Invitational. Those are the 4.
Yep.
They know they're coming. They know roughly the time, right? Like Shaw just put his out, right? They know the time, all of that. It would be great to have that set in stone for the weight class guys and girls sooner rather than later. And so I totally am on board. That's why one of the 105 contest to come in over there is earlier in the year, so it's not stepping on toes of everything else.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, kind of shopping it, and causing issues.
Right. Well, that's smart. So let's make a circuit. So everyone get together and be friends and make a circuit, and everyone can do everything. It'll be awesome.
Yeah, you don't gotta be friends, just work together. That's all.
Yeah,
That's
right. 100%. Yeah, you're not best friends with all your coworkers, but you get shit
right.
done.
I say it all the time. If you're doing something good for the sport, I support you. I don't care if you're what is Strongman Corporation or USS or OSG or whatever they all are. I really don't. If you're doing something good for the sport, I support it. Because what's good for the sport in general is good for everybody. If you're doing
Right.
something stupid for the sport, I don't support it, because then that hurts everybody, right? Because if it's someone's first time in the sport, somebody could do really awful, and then all of a sudden strongman sucks. All of strongman. Flip
Yep.
side of that, someone does well, strongman's awesome.
Right.
Again, I don't care what banner something's under. I support it all. If it's good for the sport, I support it. I think it's great. And like I said, I think if people could just have a little bit more of a conscious thought process about where
Yeah.
things are going, and I think it'd be great.
Yeah. No, I get it. I think that's with everything in the sport too. Like even at the local level, like, hey, this gym that's 35 minutes away from us runs a show this time of year, we want to run a show. Let's do it, a couple months just so people in the area can do multiple shows, because not everyone's a pro, not everyone's trying to do OSG, not everyone's trying to do this. It's a microcosm across the whole sport, right? So
Yeah, no, definitely at
uh,
every level, not just at whatever level we're talking about, just every
right.
level. I
Yeah.
see it all the time. You got people running shows a month apart, and I'm just like, A, why do you want to do that? And B, why the heck are you allowed to do that?
Yeah. Yeah.
Like,
I get it, man. It stinks. But if you're not following Tyler on Instagram, follow Pro Strongman League. I know you have your own personal Tyler too. You got your Primal Strength U one, but um
follow Pro Strongman League.
follow Pro Strongman League. I
Some
need I
more, some more value there.
Yeah, but I really do encourage people internationally, but here in America to get involved with PSL because it's really cool to see what they're doing. It's inspiring. I had an amazing time as an athlete at the one event that I've gotten to take part of so far, and I plan to compete again next year. So it's my one of my big items on my calendar. I've already got circled for next year. So if Tyler tells me the date, I'll circle it on my calendar and I'll get it going. So I'm eager to try to earn my spot and get back there next year. So, um, but we talked about the money that they're giving away, the perks for the athletes, not spending more money, and just how Tyler's trying to evolve the process for us, the athletes. So I just really encourage you guys to get involved. Message Tyler, his team, talk to them, and they'll talk to you. They'll explain stuff, and sorry to blow if it blows up your DMs or anything, but they're just good people, and I saw it in person. So, man, I can't thank you enough, and I'm glad you were able to get on the show before next weekend. Wish you luck.
Yep. Super grateful that you had me on here. I think it's perfect timing, even if it's not 200. But the triple header of the Super Series with all the people coming, I can't wait. I think it's going to
Yeah,
be. You're kind of
just
missing out if you don't.
we will post the link for October 5th, next Saturday. PSL Super Series. You got the 64s deadlift championship in the 90s. Um, but if you can't make it out, I want as many people to make it out to Roanoke as they can. It sounds like it's gonna be a really cool event. If you can't, one way to really support Pro Strongman League and their event to wrap up this year is to subscribe to their YouTube channel, but then watch it next weekend.
Yeah, definitely. And one thing I haven't talked about a lot is we're going to be doing some other things with the YouTube channel once this show is done. Um, a couple of things are cool. I guess I'll let you figure it out. But a couple of things I think are really cool that we're gonna be doing with it. Definitely, and subscribing, watching. It's the more eyes on the sport, the better it is for the athletes. That's where all of the opportunities and growth comes from, is the exposure. Super, like I said, super pumped about a lot of things with it, including all of the men and women coming. Um, and the records, right? There's deadlifts and there's a stone record going down. I only wanted to be deadlifts, and then I got, I was like, hey, someone's like, hey, this guy wants to break the 90 kilogram stone record. I'm like, all right, is he got a real chance at it? And I got sent a video, I'm like, this close to it. And I'm like, cool, let's do it. Right. So
That's
just all
awesome.
around, I think it's going to be just fireworks everywhere.
No, that's really cool. Well, Tyler, man, I can't thank you enough for coming on and we'll talk to you soon. Good luck on next Saturday, and then
Thank you.
we'll have you on later this year to talk about 2025.
Yeah, no, most definitely would be a great help in my goal to talk more about what we're doing.
Awesome, man.
I've been told I suck at it.
Awesome, man. Well, thank you so much, Tyler.
So, Josh, appreciate you, man.